sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to go over my Week 2 USFL Power Rankings. So, recapping Week 1, in the opener, the Stars beat the Showboats 27-23. The Stallions easily beat the Generals 27-13. The Panthers easily beat the Gamblers 29-13. And finally, the Breakers beat the Maulers by a score of 22-15. So, my Week 2 Power Rankings, beginning at number 8. We've got the Gamblers, so they took a bad loss to the Panthers, losing 29-13. Offensively, they were brutal, turning the ball over 4 times and only putting up 194 total yards of offense. The offensive line struggled, giving up 4 sacks, and also quarterback Kenji Bahar did not have a good game. He threw for only 109 yards, 2 interceptions, and he also lost a fumble. Defensively, they weren't much better. They gave up 29 points and 327 yards of offense. They also allowed the Panthers quarterbacks Josh Love and Carson Strong to complete 88% of their passes. But the Gamblers, they didn't have high expectations coming into the season, and they showed exactly why in Week 1. They're, in my opinion, the worst team in the USFL, and they come in at number 8. 7, we've got the Maulers. So they lost to the Breakers by a score of 22-15, but they played a very competitive game. They were great defensively, forcing the Breakers to settle for 5 field goals and also adding a defensive touchdown. Off-season addition linebacker Reuben Foster had himself a great game with 12 tackles in his first game as a Mauler. Now, offensively, it was a different story for the Maulers as they were atrocious. Their passing attack was only 10 of 27 for just 81 yards. Neither quarterback Troy Williams or James Morgan was able to get much going, and their ground game was solid with 84 yards and 4.4 yards a carry. But the Maulers, they've got potential, especially if their defense can continue to play well, but they need their offense to definitely step up their game, and the Maulers, they enter at number 7. Coming in at number 6, we've got the Memphis Showboats. So they played a good first game back in Memphis, even though they ended up losing. So, offensively, they had a much more balanced attack. They had 198 passing yards and 97 rushing yards, and their ground game was greatly helped by the addition of former NFL running back Alex Collins, who had 66 rushing yards and a score, plus he added 25 receiving yards. Defensively for the Showboats, they struggled to keep the Stars' passing attack in check, but their pass was tremendous as they were able to sack Case Cookus 5 times. And the Showboats definitely seem to be a good team, even though they ended up losing in Week 1. Right now they enter at number 6, but I could see the argument for them a bit higher. Entering at number 5, we've got the Michigan Panthers. So they played a good first game as they easily beat the Gamblers by a score of 29-13. They played a very balanced and complete game. Offensively, they were good through the air and on the ground. Quarterback Josh Love completed 90% of his passes, threw for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns, in order to being named Offensive Player of the Week. Defensively, they allowed just 194 yards and 3.7 yards of play. Plus, they had 4 sacks, including 3 from Breland Sparks, who was named the Defensive Player of the Week. Plus, their defense also forced 4 turnovers. So, overall, a great week in Week 1 for the Panthers. Now, I don't want to overreact to just 1 week or the Panthers beating a bad Gamblers team, but they could be really good if they continue to play like this, and right now they enter at number 5. Number 4, we've got the Breakers. So, they got a hard-fought win over the Maulers. New quarterback McClellan Bethel Thompson was good in his first game for the Breakers, as he was the first quarterback this season to throw for over 300 yards. He had 302 in the win. Now, the Breakers, they could definitely improve their rushing attack, which only had 62 rushing yards, but defensively, they played a tremendous game, holding the Maulers to just 15 points without an offensive touchdown and to 156 total yards of offense. Now, the Breakers, they got off to the right foot with the win, but it was a very hard-fought victory over the Maulers, but they got the win, and they enter number 4. Number 3, we've got the New Jersey Generals. So they lost their opener 27-10 to the Stallions, and it wasn't that close. I could see the argument for having them lower, but I still think they're a good team. Now, the Generals do need to get rid of their 2-quarterback system because they played DeAndre Johnson and Dakota Prukup in the loss to the Stallions. And now the reason the 2-quarterback system worked last year is because they had 2 different types of quarterbacks. They had DeAndre Johnson, who was the more mobile dual-threat guy, and then they had Luis Perez, who was the passer. This season, Dakota Prukup and DeAndre Johnson both have very similar play styles. Both are dual-threat quarterbacks, so there isn't really a point in having both of them play. The Generals, they also need to find a go-to wide receiver after last year's go-to wide receiver, Kevontae Turpin, departed in the offseason. And defensively, they played a pretty good game aside from a few plays. But overall, the Generals did not get off to the start they were hoping for, and they still entered number 3 in my power rankings, but I could definitely see the argument for having them lower. Entering at number 2, we've got the Stars. So they got the win over the Showboats, where they picked up where they left off last season, especially offensively. Quarterback Case Cookus threw for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns, and their rushing attack was good as well. Now, they do need to do a better job of protecting Case Cookus, who was sacked 5 times, but overall, a good game for the Stars, and they're one of the top teams in the USFL, and enter at number 2 in my power rankings. And number 1, I'm sure it's not a surprise to any of you guys, but we've got the defending champion, the Birmingham Stallions. So they get off to a great start with a easy 27-10 win over the Generals. They did suffer some injuries in the game. So quarterback Jamar Smith left the game with a left hand injury, but he was able to come back into the game even though he didn't. And the big blow to Birmingham is they lost wide receiver Marwin Williams for the entire season as he tore his left Achilles. And that is a big loss because Marwin Williams was expected to have a big role in the Stallions offense this season, and he was expected to become their go-to wide receiver after Victor Bolden and Osiris Mitchell left in the offseason. Now, I do have a few questions for the Stallions after their opener, even though they won against a good team pretty convincingly. My first question for them is, where is Bo Scarborough? He saw only 3 touches all game, and that resulted in 4 yards. Why was he not more involved? He was a really, really good player for them last season as a mid-season addition. He had about 350 yards, and he's definitely one of the top running backs in the league. And he wasn't battling an injury, so there was really no reason for him not to be used. But I'd like to see the Stallions use him a lot more moving forward. And my other question for the Stallions is, who's their quarterback moving forward? Because, as I mentioned before, Jamar Smith suffered a hand injury. Now, he could have returned to the game, but he didn't because of how good backup Alex McGough was playing. And McGough finished the game with 68 passing yards and 51 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. But the Stallions, they've got 2 potential starting quarterbacks in their roster. And now, we're going to have to wait and see who they're going to end up starting. Now, it would be pretty ironic if last year at the season opener against the Generals, they started Alex McGough, and he was with an injury. Jamar Smith replaces him, and now he played well enough to earn the starting job and ends up leading them to a league title. Now, this year, in the opener against the Generals, Jamar Smith starts, leaves with injury, and now Alex McGough comes in and plays a great game. So that's got to be a very weird story there for the Stallions. But overall, they played a great game, beating a good Generals team, and they're my number 1 team in my power rankings. So those are my Week 2 USFL power rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications so much get their upcoming videos. I do my best to post as often as possible. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my rankings, disagree, and why. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of their upcoming videos. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.